President Trump's raising tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from 25% to 50%. Yeah, they're now in effect.
All right, let's turn back to the White House and President Trump's decision to raise tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from 25 to 50%.
They told us it would save American jobs. They promised us a new golden age for U.S. factories. They called it economic patriotism. But what if that promise is breaking apart before our very eyes? Across assembly lines and airport gates, the impact is no longer a theory. It's happening. And at the center of this unraveling, Boeing. Yes, that Boeing. The one that helped win wars, fly presidents, and define America's place in the sky. Now, the same company is quietly spiraling toward a crisis no one saw coming. Except maybe they did. Welcome to Washington State, where Boeing's massive assembly plants once buzzed like a hive. Now, the lights still shine, but uncertainty hums louder than the machinery. Executives speak in hushed tones. Engineers glance nervously at schedules, and rumors of a slowdown refuse to die. On the surface, there's been no official shutdown. But don't be fooled. Behind closed doors, Boeing's feeling the crush. And it all traces back to one moment. April 2025. President Trump, flanked by flags, declared Liberation Day, a bold new chapter in U.S. trade policy. Tariffs slammed down, 25% on imported cars, raw materials, even jet parts. The message? Build it here or pay up. That declaration sent a shockwave through American industry. And Boeing? It was right in the blast radius. Just weeks later, the company reported a stunning $150 million hit tied directly to the tariffs. But that was only the beginning. Costs for aluminum and titanium soared. Contracts with foreign suppliers buckled. Expansion plans? Frozen. And while massive layoffs haven't landed yet, there's no question something fundamental has shifted. Inside the Aerospace Industries Association, the alarm bells are deafening. In a rare, almost pleading public statement, they warned the entire sector's stability is at risk. Why? Because airplanes aren't built in one country. They're built across borders. Fuselages from Italy, wings from Japan, avionics from the UK. Rewiring that web of suppliers doesn't take months. It takes years. An even minor part, one bolt out of place, can crash a plane. You can't rush that. But tariffs? They don't care. Just ask Alaska Airlines. In a move that stunned the industry, the airline publicly admitted it couldn't fly scheduled routes because the jets they ordered couldn't be delivered. The issue? Brazilian-made regional aircraft slapped with a new 10% import duty. Rather than absorb the cost, Alaska let the planes sit, parked, idle. And so, 14 flights a day vanished. Not due to fuel prices, not pilot shortages, but policy. Behind every canceled route is a story. A wedding missed, a surgery delayed, a business deal lost. Tariffs written in Washington now ripple into boarding gates in Seattle, Salt Lake, and Sacramento. Alaska's message was sharp. We will not accept added costs imposed by tariffs. Translation? We're not playing by these rules. And they're not alone. Delta, cornered by the same problem, got creative and desperate. In an audacious move, they rerouted Airbus deliveries to Europe, flew them to the U.S., and reclassified the planes as used to dodge the tariff. Legal? Technically. Desperate? Absolutely. This isn't trade strategy. This is survival. And while the skies grow tense, the ground below is bleeding. Stellantis, the maker of Jeep, Dodge, Chrysler, was the first to blink. 900 jobs cut. Plants in Canada and Mexico shut down. American stamping facilities started idling. The whole auto supply chain began to wobble. Then Ford dropped a bombshell. A projected $2.5 billion loss. Profit forecasts wiped. Wall Street stunned. Factories that once operated like clockwork are now choked by bottlenecks. Every tariff is another delay. Every delay, a missed quota. Every missed quota, another paycheck in doubt. And yet, this is just the beginning. Let's head north, Canada, a key supplier of aluminum and steel to U.S. factories. Or at least it was, because just days after the U.S. doubled tariffs on Canadian metals, hiking them to a brutal 50%, Production lines began grinding to a halt. Plants that had been running for decades suddenly paused operations. Not because of a recession, not because of demand, but because trucks full of critical raw materials were now stuck, stranded at border checkpoints, waiting for a policy update that never came. Factories didn't even wait for clarification. Within 48 hours, some shut down entirely. Workers were sent home without answers. Meanwhile, American partners downstream, automakers, aerospace firms, equipment manufacturers began sounding the alarm. Their input materials were now either too expensive, too delayed, or too uncertain to count on. And here's where things go global. Ryanair, Europe's largest low-cost airline, delivered a threat that nearly gave Boeing a corporate heart attack. They said if Boeing prices rose due to tariffs, they'd cancel their entire $30 billion jet order. That's 300 planes. Gone. And the CEO didn't stop there. He openly floated the unthinkable, buying aircraft from China's government-backed jet maker instead. Yes, China, the very country these tariffs were meant to push back against. And yet, amid all this chaos, Washington stands firm. President Trump, flanked by economic advisors, has doubled down. No walkbacks, no delays, no apologies. They call it a long overdue reset. They say the playing field is finally being leveled. They call it economic justice, national strength, patriotism. But let's talk about what's really happening. At car dealerships across the country, prices are up, sometimes by thousands. Flights are being canceled, not because of weather, but because aircraft can't be delivered. And factories, the ones we were told would roar back to life, are instead whispering into silence. The promise was straightforward. Tariffs would protect the American worker, bring jobs home, make America build again. But the reality? We're watching the cost of that promise play out in real time. Not in theory, not in white papers, but in missed paychecks, empty production floors, and supply chains that once spanned oceans now tangled in red tape. And now comes the most chilling question of all. Who's next? As Boeing scrambles to maintain output, whispers swirl. Will Tesla raise prices again as battery tariffs spike? Will Airbus strike back, triggering a full-blown aviation war between the US and EU? Will companies simply move out, abandoning the very workforce the tariffs were supposed to defend? Across the boardrooms of America, the question isn't about quarterly profit anymore. It's about survival. Executives are rewriting contracts at midnight. Delivery dates are slipping. Budgets are exploding. And worst of all, trust is disintegrating. Global trade isn't just about money. It's about relationships, predictability, systems that took decades to build. And right now, those systems are buckling. Because a tariff isn't just a tax. It's a signal. And the signal we're sending to the world is uncertainty, volatility, risk. It's not just Boeing. It's not just Alaska Airlines or Ford or Stellantis. It's the entire promise of American manufacturing that's on the line. We were told this would bring jobs back, but instead, it's pushing companies to the brink. The irony? In trying to protect American industry, we may be strangling it. So now we all wait to see which company falters next, which supply chain snaps, which industry decides it can no longer afford to play by these new rules. Because this isn't just a trade policy anymore. It's a test of identity. Can America still lead in a global economy? Or is it turning inward at the exact moment the world is moving on? And the scariest part? This story isn't over. It's just beginning. So stay tuned, because Global Pulse will be here, tracking every twist, every fallout, and every decision that reshapes the future of industry as we know it. Hit that subscribe button, because the next wave is coming, and you want to be ready.